Before we begin, let me invite you to just close your eyes and find yourself in a comfortable seated position. Spine straight, close your eyes, crown of the head towards the sky, and just allow yourself to fully arrive into this moment. Can you feel the ground underneath you supporting you, holding you? Deep breath in through your nose, fill yourself up, and hold and exhale with a sigh. Now, deepest breath today. Deeply inhale, hold, feel how full you are. Can you relax your shoulders, drop your face, just anything to find even more spaciousness? And now exhale. Keeping your eyes still closed, connect with your intention. What is it that you need from today? What brought you here? Maybe it's a question. Maybe it's a desire. Maybe it's pain. Whatever it is, allow it in. Place your hands on your heart. And now take a deep inhale in into your intention, allowing your chest to expand. And hold it in. Can you imagine what it is like if your question, your intention, your desire is answered? Just picture it. And as you exhale, let go of your attention, knowing that it's already set. Releasing your hands and slowly opening your eyes. Welcome. I would love for you if you could just drop your intention into the chat. What came up for you? Maybe it's a word or a sentence, whatever it is, just please share with us. Clarity on next steps. Thank you, Gracia. Clarity. Release old structures, old relationships, old beliefs. Yeah. Inner peace. Beautiful. To ground and find my center, let go of distractions and fully focus, find focus and tunnel vision for myself and my work. Releasing the grip of some parts, trust. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I love this. It is what it feels to me is releasing the old information and allowing the new information to come in and to clear space. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Unbound, this workshop, actually, it's not the first time, it's maybe the fifth time I'm teaching it, but every time before every live session, it takes a different shape, a color, something else happens to it and it switches and it becomes more and more deeply rooted in understanding of how underneath all of our parts of all that already exists, there is this self which actually just wants to be known. Unbound is exactly about that moment when we understand that there are things that are not serving us, but they hold the grip on us. But we haven't yet figured out exactly what it is that is coming through. So in order for us to understand what's growing, we need to clear the soil and maybe compost some of the things and only then plant the seeds. So this is where Unbound comes in. So what we're going to go through today is first, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. Most of you already have met in some way, but still, I'll share a little bit about my journey. And then we're going to dive into inner conflicts. Inner conflicts are moments when there are parts of us that are in opposition, one part wants us to grow and step up and just express and just be our fullest self. Another one is, oh no, I need rest. I need something else. I need time. I need anything else but this. So there is this opposition. And the truth is that neither one of these parts is right or wrong. Both of them need to be listened to. We're going to look at origins of these conflicts or of the suffering, of this pain that is being created by the opposition. And then we're going to go into some self inquiry. And I will also share the work I do with IFS. And I'm going to guide you through an IFS meditation for you to meet parts that are or might be a little stuck. So let's dive in. Actually, before I say that about me, some of you might know, but my background was very different. Around 5 years ago, I had one of the biggest turning points in my life. My background is corporate banking. So I was in London. I lived there for 14 years, had career, the house, the everything that felt like it was a box to tick was ticked. At the same time, there was this feeling that there is more. And I started getting these visions of completely different life, but it really did not align with the identity that I carefully constructed and which actually led me to certain levels of success. I had the house, had the relationship, I had everything which I needed to have, but I understood there was something missing. And that something was meaning, really. So during COVID, there was a really big shift in my life, which then led me to reassess everything that I have lived, all my truths, and question every belief I had. As the world went into COVID lockdown, it paused. And so did I for the first time in ages. And all I felt was this overwhelming sense of relief that I didn't have to keep up the life I was living, that I didn't have to go and do things I was doing, have the conversations, jump on planes and have those business trips. I didn't have to pretend anymore to be something or do anything. I was still working online at my corporate job, which then became from 9 to 5, it stretched into 7 to the last email. Like it was crazy. But still, there was this like, oh, at least I can be and just reassess. And there was a small window of opportunity for me to escape the lockdown. Somehow borders opened up and I booked a flight to Costa Rica. And then it was locking down again and it just felt as if I was like rushing to my plane and there were like fires behind me. And I just squeezed through the gap onto the plane, door shut, and the world closed down again. But I was already on my way to Costa Rica. Couldn't come back. And instead of 3 weeks, I spent 4 months there doing deep self inquiry and working on myself and trying to understand what it is that's calling me. And then it is what I call the 2.0 version of my life, in which actually I no longer try to perform or to prove something. I just am. And this work that I'm going to be sharing with you today helped me a lot along the way. So that's a little introduction on me and my journey and what led me here. Since then, I studied human design, IFS, breathwork, somatics, psychology, and a lot more. I'm also right now applying for a master's program in consciousness and transpersonal psychology, which kind of blends spirituality with scientific approach and research. And my main research is going to be on in betweens, the moments when we are going through this messy middle, trying to understand what it is that we are meant to do. Because in those moments, actually, when I was doing my own research, I'm like, what is this? All I could find was existential crisis, midlife crisis. Like somehow it was bad what was happening to me. Somehow not knowing was tainted as some sort of like a pain to solve or a problem to fix. And then I started going into more spiritual Zen teachings, Buddhist teachings. And I discovered that there's this whole world where this is described in a completely different way. Buddhists have this term called Sambhega. Sambhega is described as this moment when we understand that there's more to life, that we're going to die, which is not bad news. It just means that we have to live to our fullest, that there is an assignment that we have to find and fulfill. Isn't that a little bit better than crisis? that there is actually an invitation in it, that there is something pulling us up to step up in who we can potentially become. So that really swayed me into very different teachings. And now I'm very grateful to have found programs within Western education system that have this scientific way of looking into very unscientific things, which are something bigger than ourselves, the source of all creation and life as it is that's moving through us. So I'm going to pause talking about myself for now, and I'm going to ask you guys to type in chat. What shifts are you navigating right now? And how is this process shaping you into the person you want to become? It's okay if you need a minute to think about it, but type it into chat, whatever comes through. Maybe it's even the first thing that comes through. What is the shift? Because I know all of you are navigating shifts if you're here. Left my job in finance, left the city life, and everything I always felt was not exactly right for me. I relate to it so deeply. Grazia. Am I saying your name correctly? Is it Grazia?
It's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. I
Thank
was
you for
laughing hearing your story because it's like, yeah, I can see the parallel.
Yes, it's a common one. It's like we're doing it, it's working, but then something else starts calling us. And actually, typical things of Sampega, or typical sign of this moment, which I described, is also this call to nature. You might have lived in a big city life, and all you want to do is stare at the trees now. And you're like, why? Where did this come from? I always like the trees, but now they speak to me differently. Funny, but it's very true. I'm in a huge transition, having moved from London to Ibiza, stepping away from a 20-year career, yes, as a professional dancer, and learning a new version of myself and my life, trying to find clarity in my work and purpose in the wellness space and healing from burnout. Burnout, very common when, you know what burnout is, or the way I see it now, is when an old self has left or died, let's say, and we are stalling the rebirth by trying to keep up with the old version of ourselves. And it takes a lot more energy than it used to. And we haven't clocked on what happened, and we persevere. And then the burnout is when we can no longer do it. And that's the moment when we turn to something else and start soul searching. So it's a scary one, but it's a beautiful moment too. Nicholas just got back from a year in the jungle and now in the process of figuring out what is next, what is my North Star, and what I need to do to get there, job, etc. Very common. It's like also this moment when we are doing the work and the answers don't seem to land just yet because we still live in a material world. So somehow we are like, okay, but how do I materialize the teachings, the transformation? Who am I becoming? And what does it look like as a, also like in this 3D world? Because it's not just like opening our third eye and seeing and listening to our intuition. It's also like, how do we step into this world like with grounded steps, and what are the actions we need to take? Basically, leaving consulting to go back inside of an organization where I built a new component to my business and becoming more visible as a career coach in the social impact sector. Beautiful. Visibility is something we're going to go through today as well. It's a big thing because there is this moment when we are ready to step up, or maybe we already have figured out. It's like, oh my God, what will people think? Very common. So we'll go through it. Marta, job, where I live, who I surround myself with, everything is shifting. Yeah, the all around shift. Yes, I feel that. And layering the layers of myself that kept me in the fight or flight mode for decades, and learning how to unbecome what I am not and connect to the truest version of myself. And from this point, finding what I want to do in my life. Beautiful. I'm like beautiful because I'm excited, because I like can see how alchemizing these processes of cooking you into new version are, but they don't feel great. So Yes, I also want to normalize the feeling of disorientation, of disillusion, of fear, of, but who am I without all of this? At the same time, there is something very important in this. What's my true self? Because in that sentence, it's already the answer because you're here because at some point you have felt that trueness. You have felt, you had a glimpse of your true self, the inspired, compassionate, patient version of yourself that just is in this moment of bliss of, "Ah, this is a glimmer." So actually only then we start searching more of it. And it's again a good thing. It just doesn't feel good when we are disconnected. But actually, once we have had a glimpse of our true self, then our mission becomes of multiplying those moments and searching for more and more. Okay, I'm going to read out one more and then we dig into the material. Hi, Nestle, by the way. Thanks for joining. Shifting from marketing, what I've studied and always been working in, to learning more about breath work, space holding, and whoop healing, finding my voice and stepping into my power, leadership. Beautiful. Yes, I also like my background has completely nothing to do with what I'm doing now. And yet, it's everything I have learned in corporate is actually has given me the solid background into stepping into what I'm doing now. At the beginning, I was almost renouncing all of it. And then I was like, wait a second, actually, these organizational skills, this like corporate background of getting stuff done, knowing how to schedule, how to navigate this also like more logistical side of things, running a business. I was like, oh my God, this is great because again, it's not just the realms of the knowing and intuitive things and flow, it's also how to execute it. And Yanina is going through a big shift as well, left country, left the job, and now seeking to live in a healthier world, starting from zero in a new place and having to bring myself into introducing me and my abilities. Beautiful. Wow, what a group. I already love this and where this is going. Thank you so much for your answers and for sharing your heart. Yes. And this also gives me more understanding of where you guys are so that I can make this as relevant for you as as it possibly can. And maybe in short, can you just share what fears, doubts, and obstacles are presenting? What are the stories? What are the sentences that you hear? So you've done these big shifts or you're in the midst of all of them. What is coming up? It's, yeah, but I can't. Yes, but others can, but I will never figure it out. Whatever it is, just invite it in and maybe summarize it in a short sentence. Danny, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, starting over in a new country, it's no joke. It's a serious undertaking and it takes time to build community. Sometimes we romanticize these, like, I'm just going to go and find my Zen on the mountaintop or in a new country. But as one of my teachers always used to say, it's actually a quote from Alan Watts. The only Zen you find on the mountaintop is the Zen that you brought there with you. So sometimes changing environment helps, but other times it's just a thing to get accustomed to. Erin, the doubts and obstacles, thinking small, imposter syndrome, lack of clarity. Marta, this is too late, financial obstacles. End up feeling even worse. Yeah, it's like we sometimes choose familiar comfort yet, or actually familiar discomfort over something new and unknown. Also, financial obstacles. Yes. It's a big thing, right? So we need to sustain ourselves. How do we do that when we're stepping in something new? And then maybe we are used to certain levels of comfort. Where is the money going to come from? Very relevant questions. Yeah, it's hard to allow things to emerge and wait. We're not used to waiting. All very natural. Okay, thanks again for sharing. So all of these things that you have shared, the questions, the doubts, the fears, it's resistance. It's resistance to the unknown. It's resistance to growth in a way. Like imposter syndrome is just a form of resistance. Everything is there to feels like it's like a lid that we are putting on ourselves. But I love this quote that I often share in my workshops because we often talk about resistance. It was a quote by Albert Einstein, who some of you might know, good friend of mine. It says, look deep into nature and then you will understand everything better. Why nature? Because we are part of it. And why do we need to look at it for lessons? Is because in nature, nothing grows without resistance. If a flower wants to grow through the ground, it has to break through it. We think when we have doubt or we feeling imposter syndrome, we somehow feel that we are not ready yet, that there is something that we need to unblock or overcome in order to move through it, in order for that to be not there for us to take the step. But that's not how it works. Actually, resistance is your invitation. It means that's actually the pathway through which you need to step into in order to actually become what you're meant to become. In other words, if again, we learn from nature, when we plant a seed, it's a seed. But for seed to become plant, to become a fruit, a vegetable, it needs to unbecome the seed. It needs to become something completely different. In this in between, we often try to keep the seed and still become a vegetable. It doesn't work like that. Seed needs to die in order for the vegetable to bloom. Your old self needs to die for the new one to emerge. So that's why the question, which parts of me am I ready to let go of? Which parts of me actually need to be completely retired? There is a space in between in which we can still navigate for both, but at some point, some of these old stories, patterns, beliefs, relationships, friendships, they need to go. And that's hard. But actually, by clearing space, we invite more growth in. And that leads actually to this statement that we grow through resistance. So, your resistance, the fears that are coming up, is okay, but suffering is a choice. So if you see the resistance and this lack of clarity and all of these things as something that is preventing you from stepping into something else, it's going to prevent you from it. However, if you see it as just invitations, oh my God, how amazing, I'm actually ready to step up, because you wouldn't have even had those desires for a different life if you weren't capable. That's not how it works. Actually, we receive our assignments through our desires, through resonance, through our intuition, but we try to push them aside because we are scared. But actually, our fear is the pathway, the next step. In that fear lies the knowing of what we are meant to do next. We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but I also want you to understand the energetics of fear and resistance and where it comes from a psychological perspective, from a perspective where actually, if it makes sense, now when you start seeing these things, you can actually normalize them because you know that, first of all, everyone in this room feels that way already. And actually, everyone who has gone through the process you're going through has felt this way too. So when we start feeling these pushbacks and resistance, and it's, I want to, but I can't. I want to, but maybe it's not for me. I want to, but I don't know because it's too confusing. There are too many options. These are doubts and fears, and they have origins. So number one, the origins could be psychological roots. So something has happened to you in the past where it's a past experience that has taught you to protect yourself from criticism, from failure, from someone saying no to you, from someone laughing at you, from maybe you want to express, but actually how to do it because it's too new. And these past experiences shape your current reality because you remember still somewhere in the background of your being is a stored memory of things that didn't go so well. So it's these early impressions, they leave imprints. So sometimes it could look like self-doubt could be like one time you tried something when you were very little and someone laughed. You're like, no, I don't want that anymore. So it's still presenting as a story right now. Second is social and cultural conditioning. So actually, what's normal in our world? Like, how do people express? Some in Western countries, conformity is a big thing. So it's actually, do I fit in? Because not fitting in, it means I'm not socially accepted. People will laugh. People will think I'm weird. There is a risk to standing out because then I don't belong to the culture that I'm part of. And we learn very early on to mold into it. Then there is the evolutionary, it's actually survival instinct. So, for example, with fear of being seen, a very common thing is I don't want to be visible because it's not safe. And we don't even know where it comes from. But if we look back in the day, what was happening way before we even knew like all of this online visibility or anything like self expression. It was just simply survival instinct to hide when you're hunting, because if you're seen, you're not safe and you might be risking your life. So it's very evolutionary. It's so at the core of our being. It's thousands of years of conditioning. We don't even maybe grasp what it means to be visible and to be in the middle, like to receive attention, but it plays a huge role. And then the ultimate fear, the unknown. Actually, that one, we are like, I'm scared of the unknown, but the unknown is just the unknown. It will never change. We will not, we think that by finding out or gaining a little bit of clarity or gaining a bit more understanding of how things will pan out, somehow will be safer. In reality, the unknown will never change. There's still infinite amount of possibilities that can unfold. Even today, even if you know all of your things, it's still unknown that you're living in because that's just the nature of reality. So by trying to find out intellectually more information before making any step is actually not really helping. So because you cannot change the unknown, it's just unknown. What needs to change is your relationship to the unknown, because the unknown, it doesn't care. It just is. But really, ultimately, if we dig a little bit deeper, what am I scared of? What I'm scared of? I'm scared to fail. I'm scared of financial trouble. What does financial trouble mean? Oh, I will not have money. And what does that mean? Oh, it means that I will not be able to eat. And what does that mean? Oh, I'll die if I don't eat. So actually, underneath that unknown is always like a very latent, hidden fear of death. But actually, if we were just living from this fear of death, we would not leave the house. So actually, also changing your relationship with that unknown can help a lot. I'm just going to pause for a second. Does this make sense what I'm sharing? Can I get a nod? A whoop? A thumbs up? Thank you. Okay. So I just want to share these. Maybe some of these resonate. And also, the deeper we go into today's content, then you can also pick maybe when we do the meditation of meeting your parts, you can also see where it comes from. Whose voices are these? Are these your past experiences, or it's actually some voice from the social culture or anywhere else? Maybe it's someone else's voice that's actually telling you that you're not enough, because is it really true that you are not enough? I don't think so. Okay. We're diving into our first inner conflict. So here comes the moment where we desire this freedom. We desire freedom to live the life that we want, that we deserve, to live where we want, do what we want, and just be free from the past. And then there is, but what if I fail? What if I made this up? And there is the fear of uncertainty and potentially failing. And it's like this contrast of, I want this, but actually this doesn't feel so good anymore because it's scary. Who can relate to that? It's a very common one because we are all of us have somehow come up with our definition of failure. So I want to ask you, how do you define failure? What does failure mean to you?
The first thing that came to my head was not being perfect, but I know that is just tied to my perfectionism and it's not reality. But when I think about failing, it's everything not being completely perfect. If I'm not perfect, I'm not enough. But obviously, we know that's unobtainable. Yeah, that's the first thing that came to my head. Excuse me.
Thank you for sharing. Just I feel you on that. And also, did you mention 20 years in professional dancing career?
Yeah,
I wonder whether there was a very perfection was something which was expected there.
yeah, for sure. And I also think maybe I already had it in me, which made me choose a career like that, where I was always like high achiever and kind of performing, competing, trying to be the best all the time. Yeah, I don't know which came first. But yeah, it's
Yeah, with in IFS, which we will go deeper, we actually learned that these things that we even have always been, they're still survival instincts. Because competing, being the best, perfectionism, and so on, we have learned it somewhere, maybe from origins or social culture. It's like actually this like I needed to perform to be loved. I needed to be the best to receive love and recognition. So it still comes from somewhere. So even if you bring attention to, I have always been like that, but have you? Because when you were born as an infant, you didn't have to perform, you were worthy anyway. And you know how baby cries without thinking whether they have been perfect to deserve food. They just cry because they deserve it. So we learn a lot from our original state of deserving everything and not needing to be anything. But then we pick up, it's all to be more loved, to be more accepted. I need and pick up certain behaviors. Thanks
mm,
for sharing, though. Does anyone else feel like sharing?
I
Wait.
think
Oh, Gracia. Okay, so you go. Then wait.
I just think you can generalize what Erin just said. I think about meeting someone's expectation. It could be your own, it could be society, and most often we're influenced by society expectation on what's a success look like.
Yes. So true. It's what's expected. What does good look like? And then I look around because I learned it somewhere again as a child in order to understand what's good, what's bad. I doc, what's good, what's bad. We look around. So we seek this like validation externally. It's okay, let me check in. I'm not sure what good is, but like someone is going to tell me. And then we're like, okay, this is good. So I need to adhere to this. And then becomes a point again, then it becomes harder to meet it. Wait.
Everybody, I agree with everything that's been shared. And I think with failure, there's also this can be this self pressure of self expectations, which is also tied to the not good enough or needing to be striving. And so I think that balance of where are we, where am I, but not meeting my own expectations and those conditioned expectations that I put on myself. That could be clear.
Yes. I love that there is already an answer in this conditioned expectations. So there's like this deep knowing that it is not even yours. Yes.
Right. All of the things that you pick up internally or externally, that, yeah, just recognizing the bubble wrap that gets wrapped around us and affects our vision.
Yeah. I love the metaphor of bubble wrap. Yeah. It's as if, but this is exactly what it is. All of these things, they're protective layers. They're layers that we have picked up as a bubble wrap. And then it's like layer by layer is the shedding. And that it's just because there comes a point that these protective layers, which were amazing because they helped us not only to survive, but even thrive at some moments, but then they become a weight that we are carrying as if the bubble wrap turns into a cement that then constricts us and doesn't allow us to move. And then what? Yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay, Matt.
Actually, for me, I think it's self betrayal, losing myself. So that for me seems like the biggest failure. And that's why, for example, to do things and then come to conclusion that actually, let's say I still feel bad or worse seems like the biggest fear also, if it makes sense.
Yes, I understand. It is actually you understood that you no longer want to betray yourself. So you need to step into your truth. But then because the unknown is there, is what if I do all of this, but still nothing changes?
Yeah.
What if there is still this thing which makes me feel so low and how to do it? But even that doubt, like what if nothing changes? What if I feel worse is a part that's speaking? It's a part that's trying to protect you. And you can even see this protective layer there or like protective voices. But what if nothing changes? Let's just maybe not do that then. And that's how we know, because if there is this energy of, let's just pull back, let's just not do it, it's a protective layer. And doesn't mean and none of them are right or wrong. All of our layers, they have a right to say, we just need to listen. This is hopefully where we're going to go today with our meditation. Thank you so much for sharing. So, if anyone feels like there's other definitions of failure, feel free to drop in the chat. But also, we already have answered. Where are these coming from? Where do we think our definition of failure comes from? We already agreed. It feels that it's society, our own expectations, conditioning. So, actually, failure is something that is just like adopted view of it, right? And again, it's not right or wrong, it's just the way it is. But then again, you know how we go through life and we understand that everything happens for a reason. The worst thing that has happened to us actually was the past thing. Like all of these things in hindsight, we see it not as failures, but just as lessons, as something that we needed to up level in order to then step into something else. Having said that, I'm gonna pair you up and put you into breakout rooms for a minute. So the question is, if this current fear, resistance, the, if the situation that you are in and this uncertainty and this in between was a gift from your future self, why would they give it to you? So the first thing that will come to your mind, allow it to emerge, but then sit in the silence a little bit, allow it to pause and dig a little deeper, and then you can switch. And then if there's still time left, just make friends. Just it. So I'll see you all in 6 minutes. Okay. Thank you and bye. Hello. How are we? Good. Okay. How did it go? Again, I can call out or you can just, whoever feels called to unmute to share. Was there any clarity as to how this is a gift if you were to go into the hindsight?
I can go if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's funny because me and Oksana got put together and she explained, and it was basically exactly the same as my life because she was a model and it's a very similar thing. And speaking about how it's like an identity that you're really attached to, and that the fear is attached to that too. And it's like we're clinging on to this identity, but it's preventing us from moving into the next phase of life. And that's why nothing's really moving because we're like holding on for financial reasons or because of the status that comes with a job like that. But this is a gift this time because it really forces you to learn who you are without that and trust that you are enough without that status and without that job. Yeah, it was very interesting.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing. Exciting. How was it for you? Yeah. So basically, yeah, thank you for this question because, yeah, and with Erin, we discussed that actually also it's so difficult to let this identity go, especially if you've been operating from this fight and flight mode for nearly 20 years. So this is how your nervous system is wired and this is what you're used to. And just now unlearning this created, I don't know, identity, personality, it's really, there is a lot of resistance because you want to cling to familiar. Part of me wants to become free and more connected to my true self, but this bigger part, I think, is stronger at some point and it wants to pull me to the familiar. But there's always a room to improve, to grow, and yeah, to learn. Yes, and it's so true that of course it wants to protect you. Of course it wants to cling to the familiar and also it has say. So instead of actually pushing it aside, it's like that part isn't wrong. It is doing its job, what it thinks its job is. But does it want to continue that job? That's the question. And that's what we start doing when we go into IFS. We ask these parts, maybe you're tired, love. Maybe you want to do something else. And generally, that's the answer. It's, I'm so tired of keeping up the pretenses. I'm so tired living out of fear. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And then giving them something else to do is the trick. And that's what we do in IFS therapy. But also, there is moments in which it's not all or nothing. I also want to share that actually my brand is called And Also, because we can be scared and also still move forward. And we can start the new and also take care of ourselves financially. So there can also be this in between in which you already made a decision and you're taking steps forward, but there is still this side in which provides you safety. So it's not like dismiss them. All of them need to be listened to. Okay. Maybe anyone else?
I was paired with Grazia, and I actually was sharing with her that I am, for the first time in my life, at a place where I feel I am in full acceptance of who I am, my past. So there is not so much at the moment for me a big shift that is happening. I feel I am in a place where I actually want to deepen the trust into life and really allow things to really truly evolve without forcing, without controlling, without my fear holding me back, so to speak. And yeah, so I'm really in that space of going in deeper and more fully and actually enjoying the ride.
Yes, that's actually, thank you so much for bringing this perspective. And also that this is what then happens in the beginning. It feels like we try to untangle and figure out, but then bound version, which is the name of the workshop, is actually that what wants to move through me. And instead of doing all the doing, how can I remove the layers and obstacles that doesn't allow fully life to move through me?
Yeah.
And this is what we all unknowingly trying to get to, but then we're still trying. And actually, how can we be and allow it? And the way I see these layers, these stories, these fears, or these experiences that have shaped or traumatic things that have happened. I know, Stephanie, you're doing so much work, so you probably already know this, but just to the way I see it, it's like these kind of like blocks and like stones in the river. If we were a river of life, there are these stones that where the water doesn't flow. Actually, then the work becomes a lot less about untangling the mind, but actually, how can I notice where in my body there is still some energetic cyst or a block or something there that doesn't make me feel so open. How can I open up those channels so that the energy of life can move through freely and I can just be a vehicle that holds and watches it unravel? And what am I here to hold becomes
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And also just to share like a little part of my story, when I was leaving, I quit my job. I had no idea what to do. I didn't have like idea of doing this at all. I have no idea, but I'm so burnt out. I just have to allow myself to rest. And I'm so glad I did, because then at some point I was following my curiosities, but then it really showed me this energetic of less figuring out and doing, which is still conditioning, but actually what wants to move through me. And suddenly I was in Mexico. I didn't have social media, none of this. I was just there holding a workshop. And I'm like, how did that happen? But I was just sharing what came naturally to me. It was human design first. So my first business was human design. Actually, some of you here, this is how I met through my work, through human design. And I'm so glad I didn't try to figure it out. The current that was moving through was so strong. I actually, the old identity didn't want to do it. I was scared. I was ashamed. I'm like, this human design, it's a bit mumbo jumbo. People will laugh at me. But the current was so strong. I couldn't stop it. I was like, okay, I guess I just have to do it. And I'm so grateful for that version of me who was, let's just see what happens. And yeah. Next inner conflict, desire to create versus fear of being seen. How does that land? Do we know this fear of wanting to step out, but it's like, oh, what will people think? I actually have a whole workshop, which I've done so many times in person as well as online, but on fear of being seen. It's one of the topics that really is dear to my heart, not because I love the fear of being seen, but because I really had to, like, it took me through it. As I mentioned just before, this moment of something is moving through me, I have to show up. But then there was this moment of, oh my God, what will people think? And it's really natural. It's so common, the story and the fear of perception of ourselves, how others see us. In that context, I really love this quote from Charles Cooley's. He wrote a book called The Looking Glass Self-Theory, where he says that actually when we perceive ourselves, it's not our own perception of ourselves. I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. I'll read that again, just slower. I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. In other words, we live through the perception of ourselves. We are not so scared about what will people think. We are scared of what we think people will think. So in that sense, it becomes a little bit, we can really, pardon the expression, but cock block ourselves from stepping into something new, because we are so preoccupied with not even what they will actually think, but what we think they think. So it's our own self-judgment, in other words. And with that, I want to ask you a question. Maybe you can type it in the comments. What are you most afraid that people will say about you? So if you do the thing, or if you become more you, if you step into the known, if you are the imposter, like, what will happen? What are you most afraid people will say about you? That you are nuts and hippie. So familiar, so familiar. I'm like, yeah, I'm nuts and hippie. Watch me. She's not as perfect as she thought she was, as we thought she was. It's again, but it's your perception of what will happen if you're not perfect that is actually scary. Fear of rejection and not being enough. I'm not interesting, not smart. Yeah, it's like, I love what I think I just saw it pop up. Was it Martha? I guess not even saying anything, just actually not being seen. Yeah. The thing we want the most is being seen. And then what if we show ourselves and then we feel not seen? Then what? It's that fear, right? But if you don't try, you never will be actually seen. So then you already shoot yourself in the foot and prevent yourself from even trying. But I relate to that too. Yeah, that people just won't like you. That's scary, right? Because then we make something these thoughts, there are two things about them that are equally true for whatever the thought is. It is your own judgment. It's not what people think. Like actually, when we meet perfect people, for example, do we like them because they're perfect? We like them more when they're actually vulnerable, when they're imperfect, when they are like laughing and snort a little. That's when we like them, not when they're perfect. We like actually things we can relate to, not things that look good, because we can't, like, to perfection, it's a scam. We can't relate to it. No one can. But then it's just the standard that we live with. So here we are still in a moment where I'm just inviting you to consider, and maybe some of the things I share land. But exactly, Erin, your favorite people, it's for everyone like that. Actually, like, I want let that sink in. My favorite people are imperfect. So you think to be liked, you have to be perfect, but you don't, you are the one who likes the imperfect ones. So let that sink in. Like, how much more liked and relatable and so on if you just allowed yourself to try to be whatever it is that you already are, and just more of that. So there are things maybe that you're hiding. So it's, if I'm not perfect, then what? What will people find out about you? What does imperfection mean? That you make mistakes, that you don't know what you think, that you're not always put together. There is something there that through meditation, I want you to go deeper into. I already said it, but I just want to say that imagine, guys, if I told you that from now on, every decision that you're going to be making, I want you to consider everyone else. And only when everyone else in your mind agrees, only then you're allowed to make the decision that's good for you. You would be like, yeah, that's nonsense. But we do that subconsciously. We do the thing where we are so afraid of like the external, even though internally we're already ready, that we are not allowing ourselves to do what we want, because there is this invisible council of other people's opinions, which is just your own judgment of yourself. And there is one more, which I'll share as the inner conflict. There's endless examples, but I picked these three because I feel these are the ones that are in these stages of life when we are talking about our authentic expression, trueness, that are the most common ones. And it's desire for purpose and meaning and doing something that really means to us. But with this meaning, because it means so much to us, we start fearing it because it's responsibility. Who am I to steward this? If it's art or expression, then it can feel like, oh my God, am I this artist that I think I am? Or if it's in a healing way, then it's, am I this healer? Or can I hold it? It's responsibility. And it should feel like responsibility that you take on with reverence, like reverence and respect, rather than what an opportunity, what a privilege it is to steward this life that moves through me to serve others, as opposed to this, oh my God, I'm too scared, am I enough, da, 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 because those are stories. If you have been planted that, then it's your responsibility to do everything you can to actually show up for the assignment that you're receiving at your own time, at your own pace, but by listening to the parts of you that are still there and present, listening them, not to dismiss them or judge them, but to listen, to see what they need. And once you have given them what they need, you can actually then remove that emotional cyst and a block that might still keep you from shining. I'll skip this and just say that the weight of responsibility is never as heavy as the regret of never trying. So if you're recognizing yourself and it's, oh my God, it's too much, it can, this fear of responsibility can show up as, who am I to do this? Imposter syndrome. Other people do it better. Other people know more. Sometimes that's why we do parts work, to listen, not to dismiss, like, actually, no, maybe someone, like, what do I know? Like, maybe someone actually needs to, like, maybe a little bit more preparation, but then that part needs to be listened to. And it's actually, would it help if we trained a little bit more or learned more about this particular type of healing modality, or in forms of artistry, this technique of drawing, like whatever it is, like those parts also deserve to be listened to, because maybe they actually hold the next step. But if all parts are just in a position and there are a lot of inner conflicts, we don't know which one is true, and maybe they all have something for you, just from different perspectives. So, question to you: what, and maybe this one we do with comments in the chat, what are you missing out on by letting your fears control you? What's the cost you're paying? Freedom, quite a big cost. My life's purpose, yes, Nicholas, quite a lot. Helping people and doing good in the world. Exactly. At some point, it's no longer about you. It's not just about you, especially if you are in the work of helping others. At some point, it's like you and your stories are keeping you from helping others. And then it's, oh, I thought it was just me, my little world, and what I'm meant to do here and how. But then it's, oh my God, it's so much bigger. Yeah. Thank you for these reflections. Then, actually, this one, I will pair you up again, but give you shorter time this time, just to maybe brainstorm how would your life change if you overcame that fear. So let me just again send you, how would your life change if you overcame that fear? Just make a little note of this question while I set breakout rooms. I'm going to mix them up, so you're not going to be in the same rooms. And again, it's going to be, okay, let's see. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, guys, I'll see you in this time 4 minutes. And off we go. Bye. Hi, Danny.
Hi.
Did something happen?
Yeah, when I go into the breakout rooms, it like turns off my camera and my microphone, and I think it's probably like a pop-up blocking type of problem, because I can't fix it unless I completely leave the meeting and then
Okay,
rejoin.
no worries, of course. There's a couple of minutes, so maybe I mute myself, but I see Yanina is here. This is Yanina, you were partnered up, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you have the question on the screen. I'll just mute myself and make myself go, and you guys just chat
Okay.
here. Yeah,
Okay. That
Yeah.
works for me. Hello, are you here? Yeah, okay. So, how would your life change if you overcame fear? Would you like to answer that for yourself first?
No, you can go.
Okay. I think for me, something that I'm coming to understand is that I'm so fearful of being alone, and I'm putting a lot of effort into building community and building relationship. And right now, I'm in a very unsteady place. So I'm trying to build community and relationship from a place of instability where I'm really not a pleasant person to be around. And so I think the ultimate feeling would be aloneness. And how would your life change if you overcame that fear? It would just mean that I
Danny, I invite you to finish that
Oh
sentence.
gosh. Okay.
So we had some technical hiccups. So actually, Danny and Yanina, they were finishing their shares here in the room, and the sentence you were finishing, how would your life change if you overcame this fear of aloneness? So finish the sentence, please.
I think the results would be that I would have to find comfort in myself.
Can I
And
ask you
from that,
something? Sorry, continue.
no, it's okay.
How would you feel inside? What would be the sensation if you were to overcome that fear?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to understand too. I think it would just mean that a lot of my needs would be met internally as opposed to externally. But I'm so fearful that if I don't continue to put effort into the external, that I will only have the internal. And based on my own like lack of relationship with self, that's a pretty depleted space to drink from. To drink from.
Thank you for sharing so vulnerably. May I offer something?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's of course when we feel alone, which is a real fear, because maybe at some point you have felt that very early on. And I would look at those memories, but then we try to never be alone. So we put a lot, as you say, a lot of effort in externally meeting that need. And then actually, what we're trying to control is then controllable because it's external. It's never really up to us what happens externally, and people shift and move and so on. And then we constantly putting our own resources into hands of others and trying to meet it externally, which is a losing game. But then also I hear you when you say, and I feel it very deeply when you say, oh, if it's just I'm with myself, then it's like there's not a lot going on, so I need someone. But actually when you're coming with that to someone to feel it, it's already there is like a distortion in that energy. So the connection doesn't happen from a place of abundance, it happens from a place of lack. And it's a big responsibility for others to hold, to feel the things. So actually, whilst the internal is the scariest place to start, that's the only way. So actually, then I would even dig deeper. It's what happens if I just am alone? So what's so bad about it? Then what? What does it? What do I make it mean about myself if I'm alone? And actually, if you overcame that fear, maybe, just maybe, you understood that actually you are supported. You're never alone. You're held. You're enough. All of these things that actually you're fear, like that there's stories that it's not true. They have always been true. They are fundamentally true, and you're worthy of connection just because you are. You belong just because you are. And then from that place the connections start to happen, and then we go back to what actually Stephanie was referencing as well, where it's like how can it flow when we come this vehicle? Actually things start to happen from a place of abundance as opposed to from a place of scarcity, because we're not trying to fix anything anymore. We're just holding those parts, that little part of you that is scared to be alone. What does she need? Can you give it to her? And from that place, you'll see the people that you surround yourself will change. Your taste in men, friendships, women, whatever it is that you want to invite into your life will change. And you will be attracting from a completely different place. And really, does that Danny, does that land when I share all of this? Does it make sense?
Yeah. I think it's just I am a person that has been like chronically alone, so I'm just like tired of it. So I feel like it's not something that I'm unaccustomed to feeling and experiencing. Like I'm an only child, so I grew up alone. And so my answer has always been to try to create something.
I understand. First of all, I really want to give you a hug. Can we all send just like love to Danny? And thank you so much for sharing your heart so vulnerably. Who on the call can relate to feeling of loneliness at times? I definitely
Maybe
can.
can I say, I don't know if it can be helpful. I was not outside alone up to a year ago. Like you would see me very social, very extrovert. I was deeply alone. I had a barrier, like 34-year-old, and I wouldn't let anyone in. And this is a work I started in January 2024, and it's been life changing. So I can only tell you, go through that. It's painful, but it's the most beautiful thing you can do to yourself. This is my experience and my advice.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that work that you're avoiding holds the treasures you seek. And also, it's that little girl, that little Danny, that has always felt alone. She needs your love. So in IFS, what we are like, this is a therapeutic approach, but basically this aloneness, that gaping hole that you're trying to fill in, it's actually a scream of your inner child who just needs your love. She needs a reminder, that little girl, that you're not alone, that you're loved, and no matter what, whatever was not met in your childhood as connection, and this, even like I felt your heart, and like it stung me when you said chronically alone, because that's what she still feels. And you, as the grown-up version of you, still tries to seek that externally, but actually if you turn that gaze inwards and ask that little girl, like, baby girl, you're not alone, you have me, and I will never abandon you, I will never let you go. I just want to remind you that these also beliefs that you hold, that you're chronically alone, I would question that. That's what I would start with lifting. And this is where I would actually start the work with unplugging those things that are there as beliefs. And once again, thank you so much for your vulnerability. We are running out of time, and we're going to overrun about 15 minutes. Guys, is that okay? Because I really want to go through the meditation, and I realize it's a bit longer than we initially planned. I saw Wade needed to jump off, which is totally understandable, but I appreciate you guys staying. Okay, let's dive in then. I want to invite you to close your eyes and find a comfortable position. Just stay here in this moment without the need to change anything, allowing your body to settle, letting your feet feel the ground, let your shoulders soften, and notice your breath. How does your inhale feel? How does it feel to exhale? Now bring your attention inward and begin to notice what's present in you right now. What thoughts, emotions, or sensations are there? Just observe without the need of changing anything. Now invite forward the part of you that feels stuck or scared or alone, the one that's been hesitating or overworking. Maybe the one that says it's not safe, not yet. Who do you think you are? You're alone. It's not gonna work. See if you can sense that part. Where does it live in your body? What does it feel like? What is it that it's trying to communicate? Is it tight, heavy, quiet? What's the energy? Instead of trying to fix it, can you get curious about this part? Ask it gently, like you would ask a friend. What are you trying to protect me from? And wait for the response. What is the role of this part? But ask the part itself, what are you doing? Maybe the answer comes as a thought, an image, a feeling, a memory that this part shows you. Whatever comes, just trust it. Now thank this part. Let it know that you are here. And does it make sense to you what this part is trying to do? If it makes sense, just say it. It makes sense. Thank you for protecting me. I see what you are doing. I understand why you're here. Thank you for trying to protect me. Ask it, what do you need right now so that you don't have to work so hard? Again, just listen. Let it speak. And if you feel able to, offer that part something in return. Maybe that part of you just needs a hug, a reminder, nurture, love. Whatever it is, just soothe it, nurture it, love it the way you can. Ask it if there is anything else this part needs, anything else you can offer. And thank it once again. Thanking it for its wisdom, for the lessons. And now gently start deepening your breath, filling yourself up with fresh air, with fresh perspectives. Gently coming back to your body, to the room. Whenever you feel ready, place your hands on your heart and offer yourself this phrase. All parts of me are welcome here, even the ones that hesitate, even the ones that are scared, even the ones that are still figuring it out. When we meet these parts with compassion, we begin to feel more whole, more honest, more free, less alone, more loved. Deep breath in into your hands and exhale through your mouth. One more deep inhaling. Exhale with a sigh. Releasing your hands and slowly coming back to the room. I would invite you to put the cameras back on. Now we're in a smaller circle, so maybe we can share on what parts presented and whether it was easy to visualize or hard to visualize. How did it feel?
The part that showed up was the part that is concerned about financial responsibility. Just that if I follow this, how am I going to pay the bills? And when I asked it what it needed, it was just a financial plan. It was just like, if you're going to do this, what's the plan? And I think the more concrete and detailed, the better. And also a sense of, just like keeping a stable income while I work on the kind of dream vision at the same time. Yeah.
How did it feel? Is it something you can provide to yourself, a plan?
For sure. Yeah. I still need to get clear on what direction I'm going in, but at some point, absolutely. Yeah, but no, it felt good. It felt like a release, because it was like the way that it was showing up was like this version of myself that was like locked in this little metal box, and it was like slamming against the box, just feeling very claustrophobic, because the financial side of life is not one that I've ever really had pinned down. I've never really, it's not been a strong point. And so there's like a belief that's just something that I can't do. So there's a feeling of it being trapped. And after this exercise, there was a sense of relief. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love this. Also, your self-awareness. I just want to congratulate that there is like a belief that it's not the truth. It's already shows self-awareness, and whatever we believe we can change by different thoughts and different approach in doing something. And you see these scared parts, they sometimes have very practical advice for us. They keep us stuck, and we're like, here's like you just need a 3-step plan. And then it's, okay, I can do. And then actually the part becomes quiet after, because it doesn't carry that weight, because it's so that you have taken care of it. And actually then it trusts you more, and it's not so loud anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
I found that quite hard, mainly because there was a screaming child upstairs. But I felt like the part of me that is perfectionist, this overachiever, it comes from this older sister who always wanted more attention, and then I'm trying to let go of this part of me. But then I was also like, this part has really served me well, because it's given me so much drive, and I've achieved so much in my dance career because of this part that wanted to achieve, and it's what's driven me forward. And sometimes I'm scared if I let go of it that I won't be able to like achieve anything in my life or have any motivation or drive. But I also got the message is that even though this part has helped me, this part of me is really exhausted. So it's like time to give that part a rest and come into like my true self and know that that is enough to achieve as well. That me, who I am without the perfectionist mask, is enough, and I can still do big things in my life without that other part. That makes sense. So yeah, it's interesting. Amazing. And I really like your point, Erin. I think the thing about it's really a bit of giving grace to you as well. I think a lot of pushing, a lot of drive. I'm sure you've achieved a lot, but it's also respecting the tiredness out of that. And gratia.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah, yeah, it's so beautiful. Also, she served a purpose, and she deserves recognition in that, and it like makes sense that she's working so hard. So actually, when it comes up, these stories of not enoughness, people will think I'm not perfect, and so on, and just instead of turning away or trying to dismiss and say, okay, you served the purpose, she still will persist. What we resist persists. So it's actually turning towards, it's like, what do you need, babe? What can I do for you? You've done so well for me. Thank you. You've done amazing things. I'm so grateful. What would you like to do? And because those parts typically are born very young, when you were very young. So actually, she probably wants to go play and just be silly and kick a ball or, I don't know, just be. So can you allow her that? Can you introduce more play into your daily life, but also be with that little girl who is such an overachiever? I have that part too. And then at some point I had to almost swing in the opposite direction and become like a complete hippie until I found the balance. So in order not to sway, I wish I was meeting these parts earlier because IFS wasn't the first thing I did, but like actually for us not to go into this unbalanced way, we just need to meet and integrate these parts.
It's actually interesting because I forgot that in my meditation exactly that came up, that when I asked her what she needed, it was like just to be fun and not so serious and just let go of all of that and just be like I was when I was a child before I learned these ways and just fun little errand. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. What these parts need, typically love, play, attention, nurture, and reminders that they're not alone. And if you can, when this comes up, when your fears and doubts come up, that's exactly where you go. So this is the work that we do in IFS. I have been studying it for quite a while, and still in parts come up all the time because actually we are just constellation of parts, and there's like almost no end game to it because new parts being born and they have different voices and so on. So this work has been really life changing to me. That's why I started sharing it. Is really the transformation is opposed to like just persevering like the old paradigm, the way we used to in our old lives. This new way of being can be softer, can be gentler. And with parts work, it's really what has changed my life completely in a very subtle way, where I just start to understand it completely differently and seeing what's unraveling in front of me, not as the truth or not truth, but as everything is welcome. I have two ways of explore this work further. One, I'm running a retreat. It is at the end of May. So yeah, so now it's a month to go. And I still have 3 spots. So there we'll be doing a lot of IFS work in order to for it to be the turning point, the one that you are afraid of, but the one that you need for you to step fully into what is emerging. And it's very grounded approach where we actually plan and make steps forward from the place of listening to the parts that are at play and moving forward gently and at the speed where the slowest part of you is ready to move. That's one. And secondly, I'm also offering IFS sessions. I formed a package of 8 sessions, and that can be used over 2 or 3 months, where we go through this unblocking process together. So the way normally in sessions it works, we go into not meditation, but body scan, meeting these hidden parts of you through then which I help you unravel and hear these parts that actually are guiding you towards what it is that you need to, even through fear. Because the fear holds the answers and they have very helpful suggestions. So this is 2 ways how we can explore the work together, which I'll share via email. I'm very grateful. And I hope you found it useful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
Yelena.
guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
Wishing you a
much.
lovely